All right. Clap one on three. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash. And as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Wonderful. This was very
Yeah.
definitive.
Yeah, I'm like 6 minutes left in the third period of a game, and my team is doing well.
We
Um,
could have waited. I could have pushed.
6 minutes in hockey is not 6 minutes. We're looking at easily half an hour, if not longer. So interesting. I knew the score when I left the room to come in here. Checked the score again now, and it looked like the other team had scored, and I was like, it is what it is. And then I've refreshed, and now that goal is gone. So I'm like, did they take it away? I don't know. See again. I'm jazzed. I'm jazzed. I've got holiday spirit. I've got hockey in my veins. I'm good to go.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Did I put on this full face of makeup for you? I would.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But no. I was getting, we talked about this last week on the show. I was getting Bean and I's mother-daughter photos taken today.
Of course.
And I just can't wait to share them. They're so ridiculous. And she is so cute.
I have no doubt. I can't
I'm
wait.
I'm waiting. Now, the thing I've been complaining to Christy about all day, via text, via voice note, in person, just now, is it takes 24 to 48 hours to get the digital photos in your inbox. And that is a mystery to me in the year 2025. And I don't want a tech person chiming in and explaining to me. I don't want it explained. I just
Sure.
want a bitch. I just want a bitch. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you give me the glory of this little dog
Mhm.
photographed in a red and white striped sweater with a hood that goes up, covering her ears. So it's just her tiny face showing, and then this kind of almost like floppy elf top with a pom pom. You capture that, and
Mhm.
then you just think, she can wait 48 hours.
That's
You
insane.
haven't met me, JC of the JC Penny.
Of course. Of
You don't know
course.
who you're dealing with. I'm hyper fixating on this. It's all I could think about. Ask me how many times I've refreshed my email. Don't, because I don't know. The number is
Countless.
astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, asking us to wait for anything is, I mean,
Oh,
you're just cruising for a bruising at that point because we
thank you
don't know
very much.
we don't know how to wait.
I don't want to wait
Thank you so much.
for
Yeah,
my
we don't,
photos with Bean.
which
It's
is
not.
interesting that we struggle with waiting when we grew up in a world of like, oh, that TV show just ended the series or just ended the season. Well, you'll have to wait for throughout the summer to find out what happens.
Yeah,
And we just dealt with it.
I
And
know.
now we're just like waiting. We don't wait anymore.
Well, I think it's because we've tasted the sweet, sweet nectar of immediacy.
Mm,
And because we have a frame of reference, a time where we did have to wait,
you're right.
I feel like it almost makes it harder. The kids that have never known otherwise, they've never known otherwise.
Oh,
Entitlement, you know.
100%. I mean, I can't begin to imagine what it would have been like, you know, in your teens, like sitting down to watch a show and you've got all the episodes and you can watch them whenever you want
I know.
instead of like you get whatever rerun they play.
Or in my case, I'll just set the VCR to tape 6 hours of much music while I'm not home, and then I'll scrub through it and cut another
Mhm.
tape from that tape, recording using two VCRs. And I'll make a hyper cut, a super cut of everything I wanted.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not, it's not any way to live.
No, but also sounds very creative.
Mm.
And I can't remember anything about this, so this is pointless to bring up. But there is a woman who was worried like that people would like forget TV in the future.
Mm.
So she recorded just like she'd put it on a channel and just record.
Yeah, she had, it's like tens of thousands of tapes, right?
Yeah. And I'm gonna say it. There's some years I'd like to see some tapes.
I did hear that they're trying to currently digitize all of it, which is kind
Oh,
of hilarious that it's like, she spent all that
mhm.
time using the technology at the time.
Yeah,
And then it's like, well, we don't have that anymore. So, but what an amazing archive. She did it for like 20
right?
years or something, didn't she? Maybe
I
more?
think so. Yeah, that sounds right. I just really want to see like shows from like December, late 80s, early 90s. Like I want to see what toys were they pushing.
Ooh.
Like I want the old toy commercials. That's what I'm looking at. It's like how I miss when Sears made the Wish book. Like remember when that used to come in and you were like get home from school, you get told like before anyone says hello, it's the Wish book's in. And that's it. It's like make your chocolate milk, get out your highlighters, here we go. And then you go through the first couple of pages, which has some miscellaneous stuff. Then you skip the massive chunk, which was clothing. And then you get to that sweet spot at the end with all those toys.
I'm gonna I'm gonna
Oh,
be honest with you. I went through every single page, not because there would be anything in there that I would want, but
hmm.
because I didn't want it to end.
Oh, I get that. I get that. I wish, I mean, I've considered like, do I just buy, do I buy one on eBay or something just to have the old being able to like, there's also something about flipping through those light, silky pages.
I can smell it right now because there's
I
a very
know.
specific smell to those catalogs.
Yeah.
Oh, I was obsessed with those catalogs. I loved
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
It's a real shame that that went out. And I know that other stores have tried since to like, because I think Toys R Us had like a toy book that they put out, and I think Amazon did one
Yeah, it's not the same.
years ago, but it's not the same. And then I'll say this, some of the Amazon ones, this was like probably 3, 4 years ago. Um, my kids went, I gave them each a separate color marker and told them like go through, circle, put your initial, and then I'll know. And then I'd go on Amazon and it wouldn't have the item. So I'm like, don't put it in the book if you don't have the item, because then I got to go find the item somewhere else. Well, joke's on them. I've purposely been trying to find it other places
Right.
now as like just a damn the man. But I mean, I've got so much stuff coming from so many places. This is just what it is.
Yeah.
Large packages that arrive at my door that I'm like, they just slapped a sticker on it so you can see what it is, and I have to try and get it into the house without the sick child who's sitting on my couch seeing it. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the holiday season.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what I ordered. I ordered so many things from so many different places and
Mhm.
yeah, they start coming in and I'm like, no memory of it.
My problem is I don't know where to put it.
Oh, my bedroom is an absolute disaster. You can't walk in there. I tripped
Mm.
into a suitcase this morning in the dark,
Oh, sure.
you know?
I get that. I get
I have
that.
travel coming up. I have for different climates. So it's like I've got
Oh.
one suitcase out for one, I've got another suitcase out for another. I've got all of the Christmas shopping just shoved in a corner, boxes, bags, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Then I've also like there's just so much stuff in my bedroom. It's absolute chaos.
I get
It's
that.
absolute chaos.
I get that. Yeah, it's that moment. I have a very specific closet. I just refer to it as the gift closet. That's just where everything goes. Plus, there's like stationery needs, wrapping paper, etc. So there's other things in there, but that's where I put things when it comes so that anyone can enter the bedroom and will not see
Hmm.
gifts. But that got the space I had filled, so I had to like take a day and take everything out and then reorganize, and I've had to do that twice since. Because
Yeah.
things come in and I just try to shove them just to get them out of my way. I have to check things to make sure that they're the right sizes and all of that. And it's just the beginning.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Listen, this Christmas, I'm going to have enough people that I need both of my spare bedrooms for sleeping, for beds for people.
Sure.
And one of my spare bedrooms, if you follow me on social media, you may remember a video in which I talked about how this is just the room. We just closed the door. We closed the door.
Yep.
It's absolute chaos.
Hmm.
Well, guess what? I've had to start cleaning out that room. And it got to the point where I've been running out of time. And I
Mm-hmm.
have this travel and whatnot coming up. And so I did the classic ADHD thing, which is like just create a bunch of doom boxes. So I literally
Oh,
bought
yep.
giant bins
Hmm.
that I've now filled with things.
Hmm.
And I know what you're thinking, Lauren, that's terrible. You can't keep buying plastic bins. How terrible for the environment, whatever. But here's the thing, they never end. And even when I purge so much stuff from my house, there's
Hmm.
still so much stuff in here that I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I'll forever use these. And when I
Oh,
move,
yeah.
guess what? Throw it on the truck. You know what I mean?
Oh, I live in the world of I would rather load up a big Rubbermaid tub and
Yep.
put it in a corner of a room. I would
Yep.
rather people see that
Yep.
than see the pile of things that is inside of
And
it.
that's been my main focus is I'm like, I don't have time to sort anymore. Like I reached the point where it's like we're at the time deadline. So now we just put
Mhm.
it all in bins and that's future me's problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've put future me in a pickle
Yeah.
because I realized that I got to get going on that holiday hootenanny cosplay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Got to get going on that. It'll be fine. I'll have time. We'll see. But yeah, and then I had all these plans for videos I was going to record for December and then decided, it would be fun. Almost double the number of videos you want. Why? I don't know. So I'm like now I'm frantically like trying to find time to do the videos and it's just chaos. Like I should know December is the busy time.
I've never heard anything more you than I had a
Hmm.
plan to do
Hmm.
7 things, picking a
Yep.
number. And then I figured I should do 14. And then I
Oh,
figured if
yeah.
I was doing 14, I should do 21. And now
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it is absolutely me to just take on too much, unnecessarily so. Like
Yeah.
just without even thinking. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? Twice as much. Why?
Yep.
Haven't figured it out. The point is, yeah. Yeah, that's just who I am. Still trying to figure it out. The problem becomes that I share this office with my husband, so he's in here every day, like the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type work hours. So I don't have access to it at that point. Does he have to then sit and deal with a Christmas tree in this room? He does. He does. It's fine. It's mostly on my half of the room. It's fine. We
It's
won't
joyful.
we won't discuss all the things, the fact that most of that shelf is mine. I put his books behind him. It's fine. Um, but yeah, and then it's like, okay, well, when's my time I can do videos? Well, I can't do them at night because then the if I do it when it's dark outside, then the camera like gets weird about like zooming in on certain things and it
Mm.
gets annoying. So I'm like, it has to have daylight. And so I'm like, then I'm looking at weekends. And then it's like, I only have so much time on the weekend trying to crank those out. So then I'm like, well, you know what you can do during the week? Field trips. So now I'm driving around this city trying to find places that have some sort of whimsical backgrounds. And it's like, Lady Jane, take a nap, sit
Go to
down.
sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm like, I should take a nap, take a seat. But nah, that's just not how I it's not how I roll.
Yeah. And I see you.
You do.
I
Yeah.
see you because I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
I mean, some would have said you, Lauren,
Mhm.
went through the work of writing, recording, releasing an album all on your
Mhm.
own,
Yep.
planning your first Canadian tour. Um, that tour ends, you immediately jump into planning the next one.
Hmm.
And I know what you're thinking. Well, doesn't some of that carry over? No, no. I mean, I have knowledge now, so that's good.
Yes,
I know a lot more
of
now,
course.
which is great. But
Hmm.
I don't, I don't know why I didn't think maybe take a week. Take a week. Take two.
Oh, I don't think there's a world in which you're going to take 2 weeks
No. The
for a
longest
beat.
vacation
Yeah.
I've been on, I want to say in, well, maybe ever,
Hmm.
is I think 5 days.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think I've ever been away longer. It's not
Hmm.
something to brag about. This is
It
our generation. This is the plight
worked
of
to the
the elder
bone.
millennial, where
Yeah.
all we were taught was career, work, push, go, grind, heave,
Hmm.
achieve.
Are you sitting
Now
down?
these,
Couldn't you do something while you're sitting?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really bit us in the butts.
It did. It did. So it's that difficult, like you feel like you're being lazy even if you're just taking 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, I want to watch this show. Well, to justify that, I have to fold laundry during that show.
Yep.
And it's like, or just take a day. I'm trying more and more just to take a day and be like, chill out. Go take a day.
Yes.
So tomorrow I've crammed in so much so that I can take a day on Friday. Would it be easier to just spread that out between 2 days and do like a bit each day? Yeah, probably. But it's the thought of getting to the big day because of course the idea I have to earn that day. No, I
Well,
don't.
you
That's the
don't.
problem. My brain is like, you better get that stuff done so that you can feel like you've earned it.
Well,
Like, too late. I've already earned it, but I'm gonna get that stuff done.
yeah.
I'm gonna get halfway through and break down.
Yeah. Oh my God. Listen, baby steps, right?
Yeah, look, I have so many things, and I'm also like, I'm just realizing now in this moment that one of the things on my list for doing tomorrow is getting groceries, and I haven't made my grocery list yet, so that's gonna that's gonna eat some time.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, for me, I we're recording this the day that my UK tour got announced, and I had very cleverly programmed everything. Emails, posts. I
Hmm.
was like, I'm
Hmm.
because they go on sale at 10 a.m. UK time, which is 2 a.m. Los Angeles time. So I was like, I need to
Okay.
try and get this all set up, ready to go so that I don't have to stay up until 2
Of
to post,
course.
right?
Yeah,
Now, because I'm what they call anxious, um, I woke up at 2:45 this morning
of course.
and looked at my phone, and some of the shit that I had programmed didn't work. So
Oh.
immediately I'm like stumbling in the dark. I'm getting out my laptop. I'm troubleshooting. I'm like Googling,
Mhm.
and I was up until after 5. It doesn't matter. It's not the point. The point
Mhm.
is this. That was last night.
Yeah.
Tonight, like overnight into tomorrow, 2 a.m., is when my artist pre-sale goes on sale.
Hmm.
But now I'm spooked because there was an issue last
Hmm.
night. So now there's part of me that's like, do I just stay up just to make sure? Do I go to sleep and set an alarm? That doesn't feel like a way to live.
No.
And by the
No.
way, not easy to get back to sleep when you're getting up and doing clerical office work at 2:45 in the morning. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
to really wake a brain up. Like trying to sort out with Google Workspace
Hmm. Hmm.
why your emails didn't send, you know? I'm just saying to your recent quote of I'm going to get halfway through and break down. Yeah, I foresee that happening for me in the next
Mhm.
5 to 7 hours.
Oh, and you'll love this. God, maybe we should have started the record really late so that you were already pretty much up.
That would have been one way to handle it. But here's the other thing. I haven't programmed anything yet. So we're going to do this. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
get off and then I have to program all of the things to go out at 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you do that yesterday? Well, I didn't have them done yet yesterday.
Of course. You were putting things in bins.
I was putting, thank you.
Of course. I like to bring it back.
I was putting things in bins.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also realizing me suggesting like we just stay on the record until 2 a.m. That's 4 a.m. my time.
This is the same woman that was like, I have to be up very early for a flight, so I'm just going to stay up all night. And then
Yeah. I
she we
regretted
were
that.
we were teens at the time. She did and I was like, I need to sleep for even if it's only an hour. I was like, I need to
Yeah.
try and sleep before we have to do this. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just remember you telling me that when you had gotten on the flight, and this was again, not to date us, not to age us, but this was at a time where you were still getting a meal, no matter where you are on the plane.
Yep.
And I remember you telling me that they brought you your food, and then the next thing you knew, you were waking up, the food was gone, and you were asleep on on the little shelf.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything like any of the food on me, so I don't think I fell asleep on it. But I'm just like, did they pull it out from under my sleeping body? I can't tell. But yeah, that like the second I clicked that seatbelt, I was out, and then somehow that tray came down and I was asleep on that tray. Yeah, that was a big mistake not to sleep. I think I just got it in my head that I was like, oh my God, we're only going to get like 2 hours. Oh, I'll be a bear getting up in 2 hours. Better than the alternative. Like, you were just so the voice of reason, though. Like, even at the young age, you were like, I don't recommend this. This is not a good idea. You tried multiple times to convince me to go, and I was just
I
like,
did.
nah,
I
I'm
did.
good.
And listen, ultimately, I have to, let you spread your wings and do your thing. And it wasn't my business. I
Oh,
just
you
worried.
were trying so hard to just help a sister out.
Yeah, I just was like, I don't know that that's going to be the move.
Oh, yeah, it was a terrible idea. Terrible. Like, I think I think if we were given one shot at a time machine, I might use it for that to go back and be like, you dumbass, go lay down. Although I might go back hours earlier and tell us, you got to get to bed.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That was the other thing. What were we doing? We're just hanging out. We were like, oh, we don't
Yeah.
want to go to bed early because
Mhm.
it's our last night to hang out, which A, adorable,
Of
but
course.
B, grow up. Go to bed. What are you talking about?
Oh, I mean, we used to every trip. We used to be like every night, gotta get in our max time.
Yeah.
And so it was like up very late.
Yeah.
I don't blame us for it.
No,
We do the same thing now, just over Zoom.
it's true. It's a great point.
So we were just creating that habit in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And now we're at the age we just put things in bins and try not to look at it. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know how to get ahead of it. Like every time I feel like
Mm.
I'm ahead, then it's like I find another box. Like and not a bin.
Oh.
I find another box, and then it's like I'm sorting and moving, and then and throwing so much stuff out and putting so
Mhm.
much in a donate pile, and we get it out of the house. It's like great, it's out of the house, and then it's like three show up in its absence. Like it's like
Right.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I love organizing
yeah,
so much, but even I have my limits
yeah, yeah.
because I know that I told myself Spoiler alert, it was a lie. Um, that when we're on our Christmas break, I'm gonna like really like move like furniture and get things organized in my basement because my youngest plays many sports in my basement and he needs the space. And so I'm like, I'm gonna make him that space. And every time I think of it, I'm like, oh, what are you gonna do? I already want to quit and I haven't even started. But I told myself that's what I'm gonna do. So we'll see.
Hmm.
I'd like it done by the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I'd like to do like a full refresh. I know last year I fell for all those like beginning of the year organizational TikToks that were like, hey, do this little bit every day. And after like a month or something, you've done the whole house or however long it is. So I made myself a list of everything I could possibly organize, like down to like each individual kitchen drawer. And I was like, I'll do one every day, one of these items. And then some days, if I'm feeling it, do two, but do one every single day. And then within the first, I think I had 100 things on that list. And I was like, after 100 days, I'm going to be done. I got 3 days in and went, I hate this. And I stopped. I spent more time making that list than I did actually organizing it. It's just the idea. The problem I have with the big when you do a big organize is you have to make an even bigger mess before you can get to the final product. And I just know I'm going to get halfway through and go, "Arr." And then what? You're going to leave stuff out for cats to throw up on, and then you now have to do laundry? Get out.
I get it.
So I think I'm just already gonna go, even though we're still like a month out. I think I'm just gonna go into the new year being like, take more time to chill out.
Wasn't that your New Year's resolution for 2025?
I think so.
I'm
And
pretty
I
sure
and then I started the year with a massive entire house organization plan.
I think your New Year's resolutions since year two of this show have been to take more time to
Yeah.
relax,
Hmm.
work-life balance,
Yep.
breaks. Like, I think that that's been, and
Hmm.
listen, I say this, I am not throwing stones from my fucking stained glass house. Because
Hmm.
guess what?
Hmm.
I do the same thing every year. I'm like, this is going to be the year I hire a cleaning person. This is going to be the year that I outsource the cleaning. Have I done it? Well, I did have someone come a few times
Hey,
just to do the kitchen and the bathrooms.
that's better than nothing.
I
Baby
know,
steps.
I know. But again, you know, 2 days ago, I'm looking around this house and I was just like, my nightmare is to have anybody physically organize my things for me. That that
Oh,
is like people offer all the time, and I don't know how to politely say like that is nightmare fuel for me,
of course.
truly.
Of
Um,
course.
I've gotten better in that I'm like the kitchen, the bathrooms, like these are things that I can relinquish. But let me
Sure.
tell you something, when I walk into that bathroom after someone's come in and professionally cleaned it and they've moved everything, it is deeply uncomfortable
Mm,
to the core of my being. And I
hmm.
know logically that that doesn't make sense. I know logically that it's like,
Hmm.
it's fine. They just moved things around. They were cleaning. But the fact that it's not all where I left it is deeply uncomfortable. This is, I feel like the touch of OCD or something, you know?
Oh, I get that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I live in chaos. My house is a total mess. It's not like everything has a place and then something gets moved out of the way and it's like, how dare you? So it doesn't make any sense. I know.
There's
I don't get it.
organization in the chaos, though,
Yeah.
because it may be chaos, but you're still like, but I know where things are.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that? Recently, I've been trying to find things. So I did reorganize all of my Disney Disney headwear,
Of
Disney headwear,
course.
Disney shirts, all of my
Hmm.
things to go to Disneyland or Disney World with. And I was so proud of myself that I got it all organized. Everything has a place, all of the above.
Sure.
Can't find a fucking thing. Can't find a fucking thing. I know what you're thinking. How's that possible? Lauren, you organize it all. I know. I don't know where I put it though. I don't know where I put it.
Hmm.
Because then I realized that excuse me, before I did the organization, I put things in places that I forgot them. So when I did the organization, there's things that didn't make them into the reorganization. So they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I assumed everything was in the organization. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you're thinking. Oh, how many pairs of Disney ears, Mickey Mouse
Oh.
ears, does one person need? And to that I say, shut your damn mouth. I'm doing my best to find joy where I can find it.
Oh, I thought you were just going to ask how many do you have? I don't think there's such a thing as how many do you need. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah. And I don't ask because I don't know. And there's also a pair that I've been looking for over a week, a specific Christmas pair.
Mm.
They are not in this house, man. They are not in this house. I've become convinced I've left them in a hotel room somewhere. And all I have to say is this, those were limited edition. They were only available one season. And I hope whatever asshole found them, they're really enjoying them.
I love that there's just no thought in your mind that maybe it's somewhere in the house. Maybe it accidentally got put in a Christmas bin instead of like a Disney
Hmm.
bin or
Hmm.
something. I
Hmm.
just like that you're just immediately like, it's not here. It's been stolen.
And by the way, not at all not the finder's fault, by the way. What are
Mm,
they supposed to do? Well, they could have turned it into lost and found. Now I'm realizing, you know what? Maybe they did, but I never contacted the hotel because I didn't know. I've written such a story. When you're right, I'm going to open a drawer in 6 months and be like, there they are. You
I
know who the
mean,
asshole is in this story? Me.
never.
God bless. What you drinking over there?
Well, I'm doing a pineapple breeze and I'm
Your
doing it
fave?
in the this very jumbo, very beautiful Care Bear uh
That's so
sipper cup that
cute.
Kimmy very sweetly sent to me. It's much larger than you think. So when I was like, "Ooh," I'm like, "I'll do water in that." And then I was like, "Well, I'll do water in my usual thing for now." And then I'm like, "Oh, I'll just put my pineapple breeze in there." More fit in than I realized. I could not fill it because I would have just been like multiple things of the, you know, but it's quite hefty and full, so we're good to go.
I love that. Listen, that's why I also love the giant. I mean, this is a Kelly
Mm.
Clarkson show gift, the giant Stanley that I
Oh, yeah,
have
yeah.
from the last time I was there. This thing is so heavy and so huge. It doesn't like look as big, you know what I mean? But I know exactly what you mean. I'm like, this thing, it's hefty.
Yeah.
Um, I am just drinking water, and of course, I just finished my protein shake because again, trying desperately to get more of that in.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, the plight of a 40-something woman. On that note,
Hmm.
let's get into the case. This week we're discussing the Laura Letts-Beckett case. This was our November patrons poll pick over on patreon.com/ true crime and cocktails. We hold a poll once a month where you can vote for one of the episodes we cover on the main feed here of the show. The patrons chose a case about Canada, and this is the case that Christy chose. So let's all get up to speed right now with this synopsis. Previously on True Crime and Cocktails, we discussed a more lighthearted case, which caused Christy to warn that today's episode would involve murder. But does it? Laura Letts-Beckett drowned during a vacation with her husband, and while Laura's death was initially deemed an accident, people started to notice some suspicious behavior from Laura's husband, which made them wonder if Laura's death was, in fact, premeditated. So, was the death of Laura Letts-Beckett a tragic accident? Or was it a murder committed by her husband, the lone witness of the event? What evidence did police find during their investigation? And was Laura's husband ever charged? Christy Oxborrow investigates.
Beautiful.
I always like when she writes in stage directions for me. So there's one
Yeah.
that says a beat.
Yeah. Well, because I'm like, there needed a beat there.
I loved it.
It felt like it needed to happen. And
Listen, I'm an actor. Give me a script. You know what I'm saying? Tell me what you want from me. I'm happy to
yeah.
oblige.
Oh, you're very pliable. Like anything I throw at you, you're like, I can do that. And
Listen, it's my craft.
yeah.
It's my craft, my occupation. And moreover, it's my pleasure.
Oh, you were born for it. Ah, so disclaimer, this episode will contain mentions of intimate partner violence and suicide, so trigger warning for those who need it. As part of my research for this episode, I watched the 2024 Amazon documentary In Cold Water, The Shelter Bay Mystery. I always, and I, if there's like a big documentary I watch for the research, I try to post about it on like the Wednesday before the episode so people have almost a week to get into it. I thought of that while we were getting ready to record and very quickly posted to let people know, oh, she's doing her best. So, most of this episode takes place in British Columbia, Canada, which is often abbreviated to BC. It's home to Della Falls, which is the highest waterfall in Canada at a height of 440 meters. It is more than 8 times the height of Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Right? I had no
Yeah.
idea. Niagara Falls, roughly 54 meters. Did I mean for there to be waterfall related facts in back to back episodes? No, I just go where the facts take me. Case in point, Duncan, BC is home to the world's largest hockey stick. It is 62.48 meters long, making it 40 times the size of a regular stick. Mares Island near Tofino is home to the hanging garden tree, which is estimated to be between 1,500 and 2,000 years old, making it one of the oldest known western red cedar trees in the world. A Japanese chef living in Vancouver invented the California roll, which is a very popular type of sushi, also invented in BC. Egg cartons, cosmetic Botox, ambrosia apples, a caulking gun, the London fog drink, which I just assumed was in London. I was wrong. And the Jolly Jumper, which for non-parents is basically a bouncy harness system for babies. I'm sure someone could have described it better, but there you go. Actress, model, and overall icon Pamela Anderson was not only born in Ladysmith, BC, but she was also born on July 1st, 1967, which was Canada's centennial.
Wow.
I know. Other actors born in BC include Carrie Ann Moss, Kobe Smulders, Ryan Reynolds, Seth Rogen, Devon Sawa, Joshua Jackson, Jewel State, and Jason Priestley, just to name a few.
How wonderful.
And while we're speaking about Hollywood, numerous movies and TV series have been filmed in BC, including, but not limited to, Yellow Jackets, Neon Rider, Supernatural, Prison Break, The X-Files, The Vampire Diaries, Resident Alien, Final Destination Bloodlines, and at least 5 different Nicolas Cage movies, including The Humanity Bureau in 2017 and A Score to Settle in 2019. Why didn't I mention all 5? Because if we ever come back to BC, I'm going to need that in my back pocket.
I don't ever question your intentions.
I'm not going to get to 50 because that's now my goal. Now that I've gotten almost halfway, I'm not going to get to 50 episodes of him in a row unless I keep a little
You
back.
got to hold them. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
And I also need him to continue making 30 movies a year, or I'm going to get in some real trouble at some point.
Yeah, 30 movies a year does make it. I'm not going to say it makes it easy, but I'm going to say it
It
does
helps.
have some perks.
I'd like him to maybe spread out the filming locations a little bit more, but otherwise it's helpful. So, the actual episode. Laura Alice Letts was born July 16th, 1960 in Westlock, Alberta, which is about 90 kilometers or 65 minutes north of the provincial capital of Edmonton. She was the firstborn child to Park and Beth, who had later had sons Scott and Paul. The family was described as close-knit and deeply religious. They ran a large farming operation, which was very successful, but Laura was independent and wanted to provide for herself. Laura earned a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Alberta, and soon after she got a job teaching at an elementary school in Dap, which is about 26 kilometers or 18 minutes north of Westlock. Now, when I said the Letts family was deeply religious, I mean they didn't believe in marriage after divorce. So when Laura met a guy in college who was divorced, her parents wouldn't allow the relationship. In 1995, Laura was dating a doctor, but her parents discovered the doctor was divorced, so they told Laura she couldn't be with him. From my understanding, Laura's parents gave her an ultimatum and made her choose between them and her relationship. And while
Wow.
Laura was financially independent, she still, for the most part, abided by her parents' rules. So Laura ended the relationship, and to help ease her broken heart, she took a vacation to New Zealand. While in Hastings, Laura took a tour that was run by a man named Peter Beckett. Peter Ernest Edward Beckett was born November 28th, 1956, in Hastings. He briefly worked as a customs officer and an insurance agent before starting the Unimug adventure tours. After meeting Laura on a tour in November 1995, Peter invited her to dinner, and the couple talked for hours as though they'd known each other forever. When Laura returned to Canada, she stayed in communication with Peter through letters and phone calls. She described Peter to her family and friends as charismatic, funny, and jovial. But the one thing she didn't mention to her family was that Peter had been married. In fact, Peter was still technically married when he met Laura. Peter had been married to a woman named Wendy for nearly 20 years, and they had 4 children together.
Whoa.
At the time when Peter met Laura, Peter and Wendy were separated, but Peter wasn't sure he was ready to finalize the divorce because their children were still relatively young. In 1998, Peter ran for city council in Napier. He was still trying to work things out with Wendy, but shortly after the couple officially divorced after 23 years of marriage, and in December 2000, Peter made a trip to Canada to visit Laura. They said even though they hadn't seen each other in 5 years, it felt like no time had passed at all. Laura introduced Peter to her family and friends, and he was received with open arms. And for those who are like, wait a minute, I thought Laura's parents forbid her from seeing anyone who had previously been married, they just neglected to tell her family about Peter's wife or his children.
Wow.
No, yeah, no shade, just pointing out facts.
Yeah.
In 2002, Peter moved to Canada to be with Laura, and the couple were married in July 2003. And for the most part, they seemed to be happy and living their best lives. In August 2010, Laura and Peter took a vacation to the Arrow Lakes Provincial Park, which is about 50 kilometers or 39 minutes south of Revelstoke, BC. They had spent 2 weeks at the Shelter Bay campground every year for the past 3 years. In their 2007 Fleetwood Revolution 40-foot motorhome. They also had a small inflatable boat called a Zodiac. The exact dates of their trip were never publicly stated, but on August 18th, Peter woke up early and went fishing by himself around 4:35 a.m. He returned to the RV around 8:30. The couple had breakfast together. They were intimate. I only mentioned because he chose to mention it. So there you go. Then they showered and drove into Revelstoke to do laundry and some shopping. They returned to the campground around 3 p.m. and took their Zodiac out for some afternoon fishing. Peter fished along the coastline while Laura read a book. Peter said Laura suggested they move to a place with more shade because it was a particularly hot day. According to extremeweatherwatch.com, it was approximately 35 degrees Celsius, which would be about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, I get it.
That's
Need for
hot.
shade. While Peter was pulling in the 2 rods he had at the back of the boat, he heard a splash. When he looked towards the front of the boat, he saw Laura had disappeared. Peter said he immediately went to the side of the boat where he could see Laura's bright yellow shorts sinking in the water. Peter dove in to get her, but he was so buoyant he struggled to dive deep enough. He made 6 to 10 attempts to reach her but Laura continued to sink. Peter quickly swam to shore, which was roughly 20 meters or 65 feet away, grabbed a large rock, which he guessed was about 10 pounds, held it under one arm, swam back out. Now, he went on the beach, wandered around, found the rock. How on earth did he know the exact spot in the water that Laura was going to be? Well, he claims he saw air bubbles at the surface of the water, which allowed him to follow to the exact point where Laura was sinking. He then dove in, grabbed Laura, dropped the rock, and ascended to the surface. Peter said he pulled his wife to shore and immediately started doing CPR, but Laura was unresponsive. Peter flagged down a passing boater named John, who tried to help revive Laura, but was unsuccessful. John then transported Laura's body back to the campground, where an off-duty paramedic confirmed that Laura had died. Laura Letts-Beckett was described as caring, sweet, and always smiling. She was 50 at the time of her death. Now, I just want to clarify a few things about the situation before we move on. Laura could not swim, and while there was a life jacket on the boat, she was not wearing it. I'm not giving any judgments, I'm just giving the facts. Peter said he could see Laura's bright yellow shorts underwater. I immediately questioned, because I know that the color of your clothing can affect whether you're seen underwater or not. Apparently, it differs whether you're in a pool or in a lake. But I've put a chart in the case file over on Instagram and on Facebook at True Crime and Cocktails. According to the chart, bright yellow is one of the best colors to see if you're in a lake. So if he claims he saw her shorts, it's believable, because I love that's the first part of the documentary. I went, wait a minute, can you see yellow in the water? I don't know why that's been drummed in my head, but
I think
well,
that's a valid question.
because I'm like, how well could he see her? But then he was more like he could see the bubbles, which I have questions about. But Peter said he tried to dive down to reach Laura, but he was too buoyant to sink. Now, Peter Beckett was 6'8" and nearly 400 pounds.
Whoa.
So he would struggle diving, and not being buoyant. Also, just for anyone who wants to know, Laura was about 5'5". But we're supposed to believe a 53-year-old man swam 65 feet to shore, then swam back 65 feet back, carrying extra weight, then in a single breath dove down 30 feet and then all the way back up. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying the story brings up a lot of questions. Like, how was he able to see air bubbles in the water when he was still on the shore? How easy is it to see anything in a lake from 65 feet out? How was he physically able to dive down and grab Laura? And when he first saw Laura struggling in the water, why didn't he throw her the life jacket? To be clear, I'm not accusing Peter of anything. I'm just asking questions and trying to understand the situation. Staff Sergeant Jackie Olson was called out from the RCMP detachment in Revelstoke shortly after 8 p.m. When she first met Peter, he just immediately told her he'd taken a tranquilizer. Did he have one on hand? Did he get one from like a paramedic who may have shown up? I have no idea. I just love that he offered up that information. No questions asked. Jackie inspected the Zodiac boat and noted it was very crowded for such a small vessel. She saw the unused life jacket, which Laura was allegedly sitting on while in the boat. There were no claw marks on the side of the boat, which would indicate that Laura had struggled to get back in. One of Laura's shoes was still on the boat, so that could mean she either fell in or was pushed. So overall, there was no evidence that Laura's death was a homicide, so a pathologist performed a clinical autopsy as opposed to a forensic autopsy. What's the difference in those autopsies? I'm glad you asked. I'm embarrassed to admit After doing this show for 5 years, I didn't realize there were different kinds of autopsies.
Me neither.
I'm sure it differs worldwide, but in Canada specifically, there are two types, clinical and forensic. A clinical autopsy is performed by a pathologist and meant to determine the cause of a natural death, while a forensic autopsy is performed by a forensic pathologist. It must be ordered by a coroner and is only done when foul play is suspected. A forensic autopsy is far more thorough. It includes a toxicology report. They determine the cause of death, time of death, and the circumstances surrounding it. In the case of Laura Letts-Beckett, because there wasn't any evidence that indicated Laura's death was a homicide, the coroner couldn't justify ordering a forensic autopsy, so only a clinical one was done just to determine that she had in fact drowned. But people had estimated her time of death was around 5:15 p.m. Laura's parents wanted Peter to bring Laura's body home so that they could say goodbye before they buried her. Peter chose to have the body cremated, saying it was the most practical choice because he was 780 kilometers or nearly 8 hours from Westlock. Peter said, and I quote, "I just wanted to get back home." The RCMP was incredibly suspicious, but since there was no evidence that Laura's death was a homicide, there was nothing they could do. A few months later, Laura's cousin, Virginia Lyons Friesen, contacted the RCMP in Revelstoke about a conversation she overheard involving Laura. According to a police affidavit, while Laura and Peter were visiting Virginia in Calgary in 2007, Laura and Peter got into a heated argument where Virginia overheard Peter tell Laura she was going to die on a lake someday and she wouldn't know when or where.
Whoa.
Afterward, Laura allegedly confided in Virginia that Peter had been physically abusive towards her, and that he often called her names. Peter denies all of this, but the RCMP decided to open an investigation into Laura's death. They had a wiretap on Peter's phone, listening devices in his home, and they kept him under constant surveillance. Police also issued a search warrant for the house specifically to find Laura's journals because they were hoping to find something about the state of the marriage at the time of her death. Well, in the journals, police learned that Laura and Peter had some marital issues in November 2007, to the point where they separated for a few months. According to Peter, Laura's parents learned the truth about Peter's first marriage, and they immediately pushed Laura to get a divorce. Peter said he was served divorce papers on his birthday. According to the papers, Laura claimed that Peter had been physically and emotionally abusive. Peter denies this. Peter said he felt this was an issue Laura needed to sort out with her parents on her own. His exact quote about his wife: "This isn't my problem. This is Laura's problem." So he took the RV and traveled down to the US. Laura and Peter eventually reconciled in January 2008. Laura's family described Peter as a bully and said he was known to have a temper. One of Lauren's cousins claims that Laura had told her sometimes when they traveled, Peter would get angry with Laura, stop the RV in the middle of nowhere, and force Laura to get out and walk to the nearest town, which was sometimes miles away. This was also said to happen sometimes, always in the middle of nowhere, sometimes when it was dark out, and he would just leave her somewhere. In June 2011, 10 months after Laura's death, RCMP officers, led by Sergeant Terry Jacklin, went to the lake with Peter to do a full reenactment of Laura's drowning. As Peter was recalling what happened, he told them he heard a splash, and then his fisherman's instinct told him, well, the splash meant a bite on one of his fishing rods, so he started reeling it in. He said he didn't hear any screaming, so he had no idea that Laura had even fallen in. Which is interesting because on the night of the drowning, Peter told police he heard a splash followed by Laura screaming. And I know this was nearly a year later, but I just think the sound of your wife screaming is something you'd never forget. but maybe he misspoke either during his initial interview or during the reenactment. But another inconsistency in Peter's story is in his initial statement, he claimed he dove down and grabbed Laura's body with his hands to pull her up to the surface. During the reenactment, Peter claimed he grabbed Laura's neck using the inside of his feet. And
What?
then I have questions about like buoyancy and like if your body is that buoyant, are you going to be able to be feet down? Like is that going to be an easy position when you're trying to dive down? Like
No.
I have so many questions about that. He also claimed that Laura had brought a 4.5 foot umbrella on the boat and that the umbrella, as well as one of his fishing rods, had gone over the side of the boat while he had attempted to rescue her. That sounds like it means nothing, but it will come back later. When Peter was walking on the shore with police, they noticed it was very rocky. So they asked Peter if he was wearing shoes when he came searching for a rock during his rescue attempt. Peter said he was wearing shoes in the boat, but they came off in the water when he was first diving to save Laura. And by the time he was on shore, his shoes were just out floating in the water. RCMP officer Terry Jacklin then asked Peter if that meant he lost the shoes. Peter said, quote, "Yeah, oh, no, I recovered them." Then he revealed he was currently wearing the exact same shoes he was wearing that day. When Terry started to question more about when exactly in the timeline Peter managed to get the shoes, Peter just said he didn't remember. He then shut down and refused to cooperate with police any further. And look, I get it. Peter is a large man. So it's possible the shoes were maybe custom made or just simply hard to find in his size. But to me, if you just watched your spouse die, who the fuck cares about a pair of shoes? Who in that moment thinks, I'm going to gather my stuff before we
Yeah.
go? Maybe he just needed something to do while waiting for another boater to pass by. Maybe someone else picked them up for him. I don't know. It just felt like a really odd detail to me, especially if they're out floating in the water. They're not going to stay put. They're going to move around. How did he get them? It was never said. 2 months later, while RCMP were still building the case, they got word that Peter was traveling to the US with some friends. The investigators worried that once over the border, Peter might never return and they'd lose their jurisdiction on the case. So they decided, well, now's as good a time as any, and they headed to Kelowna, where they arrested Peter and charged him with first-degree murder. Peter was shocked by the arrest, as he had no idea the police had been investigating him for the past 9 months. He claimed the entire thing was a witch hunt. He said, quote, "There used to be a saying, the RCMP will always get their man, even if it's the wrong one. But now it's the RCMP will always get their man, even if there was no crime to begin with." Peter's bail was set at $50,000, but instead he chose to stay in prison, stating, quote, "Why should I have to pay if I know I'm innocent?" 11 months after Peter's arrest, Terry Jacklin, who was the lead investigator in the case, received a letter from a prison inmate who briefly shared a cell with Peter Beckett. The inmate's name was never publicly stated. So, for the sake of just consistency, I've randomly named him Carl. I don't know.
Incredible.
I would love to know how close I am. I bet not very. So Carl claims that Peter knew that Carl was being released soon. So Peter asked Carl to help him fix a problem. What was the problem? Well, Peter allegedly wanted some people taken care of. What people in
Okay.
particular? Oh, just the lead investigator on the case, Laura's family's lawyer, Laura's parents, and Laura's cousin who had witnessed a heated argument between Laura and Peter.
Oh my God.
Why? Allegedly because Peter didn't want them to testify at his upcoming trial. Carl claims once Peter told him Peter told him once he was released, he'd have enough money the two of them could live comfortably. When Carl was asked why he was coming forward, he said, quote, I don't like people who kill their wives due to the fact that I've had a loss in my family that's left a dark cloud over all of us. Carl claimed that Peter gave him a hand-drawn map with locations of the RCMP building, as well as the homes of Laura's family members. He also said Peter claimed to have stashes of dynamite, as well as $100,000 worth of diamonds, including some diamond rings hidden inside the windshield washer fluid reservoir in one of his luxury vehicles. Police executed a search warrant at Peter's home and found two diamond rings in the windshield washer reservoir in Peter's Jaguar. However, the rings ended up being just costume jewelry worth about $40. Peter said he was being set up by police and even claims that Terry Jacklin not only planted the rings, but he also helped Carl fake that letter. Terry denies this. 2 days before Carl was officially released from prison, the RCMP officially made him an undercover police agent and agreed to pay him $10,000 for his help. RCMP then started a second investigation into Peter Beckett, this time for his alleged murder for hire plot. When confronted with the allegations, Peter denied it, saying Carl was the one who approached him, not the other way around. Peter claimed he was skeptical of Carl, so he simply played along to try and catch Carl in the act. If that was true, why did you never reach out to the police and go, hey, I've got him on the hook?
Right.
But, and look, it might be believable that he was just playing along. But once Carl was released from prison, Peter called him obsessively. When Carl finally answered, Peter said he was nervous when he couldn't get a hold of him because he was worried that Carl had left town. If Peter only pretended to hire Carl to kill those people, why would he care if Carl left town? Was he concerned Carl wasn't going to do the job he hired him for? Is it possible Peter was concerned Carl was actually going to go through with it? Peter was interviewed about this years later. He was shown the hand-drawn map that Carl claimed Peter had made. He looked at it and immediately said, oh, well, yeah, that's my handwriting. But he claims he has no memory of making it and no memory as to why he ever would have drawn it in the first place. Even though it goes perfectly with Carl's story. But okay.
Right.
In December 2012, 16 months after his initial arrest, Peter was officially charged with counseling to commit murder and obstruction of justice. With the new charges, Peter's bail was revoked, and he was forced to remain in prison, although he was already there since he had refused bail in the first place. Peter spent years awaiting his trial. Lawyers claimed that at every single hearing, Peter asked for a judicial stay, and he was constantly challenging everything at the pretrial hearings, which caused things to drag out longer than usual. Peter got to the point where he said he didn't trust his lawyers were working in his best interest, so he decided he was just going to represent himself at trial, which is likely not a great idea in any case for someone without law experience, certainly not for someone being tried for murder. Peter claimed the entire thing was a conspiracy to keep him in prison, even though he's the one who turned down bail in the first place. He sent long, and I'm talking 20 to 40 page rant-filled letters to various defense lawyers telling them he was being framed by the RCMP and forced to be made an example. But when they were reading them, the rants just kind of came off as unhinged. In November 2015, defense lawyer Donna Turco reached out to Peter after receiving numerous letters from him. He told her he was being forced to defend himself, which is untrue. He chose to fire his previous attorneys. But at this point, you start to worry about his mental health because he's been fairly isolated in prison for several years by this point and constantly feeding into his own idea that this entire thing was just a big conspiracy theory. Donna agreed to take on the case, but the trial was set for just 6 weeks away. And she needed time to prepare. She said it takes months to prepare for a murder trial. So Donna asked for an adjournment. The judge refused. The trial started in January 2016 in Kamloops, BC. The prosecution brought in Dave Smith, who works underwater recovery for the RCMP. Dave did a search of the area where Laura drowned, and he found not only the umbrella, but also one of Peter's fishing rods, just as Peter had said in the exact spots that Peter had pointed out during the reenactment. But then Dave was asked the plausibility of Peter's story, mainly the claim that he had seen air bubbles, which allowed him to locate Laura in the water, as well as the story of that he dove down to retrieve her. Dave said that in the nearly 100 body recoveries he had been a part of in his career, he had never once seen air bubbles from a victim. And similar to my questions earlier, Dave also said he didn't believe that Peter was physically able to swim 30 feet down to the body and back up in a single breath. The prosecution really pushed the idea that Peter had lied about the events of the day his wife died. They also pushed the idea that Peter may have been violent. They brought up the fact that Laura's family described Peter as a bully, and Laura's cousin Virginia testified that she had overheard Peter tell Laura she was going to die in a lake someday, which, was the entire thing that started the investigation in the first place. The manager at the campground where they were staying at the time of Laura's death, he testified. His name is Colin Titsworth. He said that Peter was confrontational and intimidating. According to Colin, Peter had seemed like a decent person in previous trips, but during this particular trip, he was aggravated. Colin said 3 days before Laura's death, he spoke with Peter, who complained about the price of firewood. Colin said Peter was drunk and started belittling him, and Peter used his great height to try and intimidate Colin. Colin then warned his staff to stay away from Peter and only interact with Laura from that point on. And Colin isn't the only person who found Peter intimidating. When he was a city councilor in Napier from 1998 to 2001, the mayor of Napier said Peter would randomly call him in the middle of the night and verbally abuse him. The mayor said, quote, "It was like he flicked a switch because he could also be charming." Also, while a city councilor, there was an incident where Peter slapped a rugby captain in the face while drunk at a bar. According to the captain, Peter approached him 3 separate times and got angry when the captain kept walking away from him. Peter allegedly said, quote, "Don't you know who I am? I'm a counselor." Peter admitted to slapping the man, but said it wasn't meant to be aggressive. He thought the rugby captain was an old friend, and it was just a case of you know what I mean. There's a word there. Uh,
Miscommunication?
no, I was going to say misidentifying, but he thought it was an old friend of his. Turned out it wasn't. But it's interesting that he thought it was his old friend, so he slapped him in the face. Like that's an interesting way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mistaken identity?
There it is. Case of mistaken identity. That's it. That's why we work.
Yep.
There it is. So there was a moment. Oh, wait, no, there. So the prosecution tried to discredit Peter, but Peter really didn't help with the situation with some of his, we'll say, unusual courtroom behavior. One day before the judge arrived, Peter performed a haka, which is a traditional Maori ceremonial dance. And while Peter is not Maori himself, he said he did it to gain strength from his family far away. But he also admitted he did it to get more attention for his case in the press because he felt he was being wrongly accused and was upset he wasn't getting more press about it.
Oh boy.
There was also a moment when Peter was being escorted from the room at the end of a day and his pants fell down. I don't know if that was just an accident or simply trying again to get more attention for himself. Honestly, could go either way. Peter then requested to take the stand in his own defense. His lawyer begged him not to, but Peter was pretty adamant about it. Um, the problem is that Peter's story was inconsistent. And at first, Peter had said the umbrella went overboard with Laura. Even the RCMP underwater recovery team member Dave Smith corroborated that in his own testimony because they found the umbrella. But when he was on the stand, Peter claimed the umbrella had obstructed his view of Laura, and that's why he didn't know she'd fallen in right away. He then claims the umbrella was in the bottom of the boat when he dove in after her. But if the umbrella was in the boat, how did Dave find it at the bottom of the lake a year later? I know it might just be a simple error, but when someone already testified to finding the umbrella, it makes no sense to suddenly claim it was in the boat the entire time. After a 4-month long trial, the jury was sent to deliberate. Since the case was mostly circumstantial, Donna and Peter believed they were getting an acquittal. As Donna stated, quote, "It is not correct to convict someone on circumstantial evidence where there is an alternate explanation for what happened because an innocent person could end up in jail for the rest of their life." The jury returned a week later, completely deadlocked, so the judge was forced to declare a mistrial. The jury was allegedly stuck at 11 to 1. Peter believes it was 11 to 1 to acquit, but journalists covering the case believe it was the other way around. Unfortunately, we'll never know because jurors are forbidden from discussing their deliberations in Canada, which I find shocking that you can't, like, even a year later, be like, let's talk about, like, once the case is for sure done or something. I'm just surprised you're not allowed to.
Well, yeah, because I mean, on Dateline, they constantly talk to jurors from cases that they're covering. I'm assuming they're all American juries, but yeah.
Yeah. So Peter was stuck in prison, now awaiting his second trial. He said Laura was his inspiration to keep fighting. He said, quote, "I loved that girl and she loved me, and this is for her." The second trial started in August 2017, 7 years after Laura's death and nearly 6 years after Peter's arrest. His lawyer, Donna, brought in a second lawyer, Marilyn Sanford, to help. I think the comment was like they wanted fresh eyes on the case. The prosecution called Carl, the inmate informant, to the stand, but the defense quickly filed a motion to have part of Carl's testimony inadmissible. The defense argued that the information Carl obtained for the police after they agreed to pay him should not be allowed. The judge agreed. So Carl was allowed to testify, but he wasn't allowed to talk about anything that happened after the police had made him an undercover agent and told him he was getting paid. Carl testified that Laura's cousin Virginia was the most damning witness for Peter, so he wanted her taken care of first. Carl said the plan was to take Virginia out in a car accident and then set fire to the homes of Laura's parents and brother while they were still inside. Carl claims the entire thing was Peter's plan. However, all of that was stuff Carl was not supposed to say in front of the jury. So the defense suggested they should have a mistrial because Carl was saying things that the judge already agreed weren't admissible. But the judge denied the request and continued on the trial as though Carl hadn't fully mucked up, which then makes me wonder, God, is Peter right about this being a conspiracy against him? I know that jailhouse informants aren't typically believed as they have very large motive to lie, especially when they're being paid. But Carl told the jury some pretty damning things about Peter that can't be unheard. So it's absolutely wild to me that the judge allowed that trial to continue. The prosecution then brought in Ron and Mary Hawkins, who were friends with Peter and Laura for several years. Ron said Peter stayed with them for several days following Laura's death before heading home to Alberta, which is interesting since Peter said the main reason he had Laura cremated was because he just wanted to go home.
Right.
So it's interesting he postponed going home to stay with friends.
Isn't it?
Ron also testified that during the stay, Peter asked him if Google Earth recorded all the time or if it was just a picture every once in a while. When Ron told him Google Earth isn't recording, Peter allegedly said, "Oh, that's okay then." Peter denies saying this, but claims he did ask about Google Earth, but only because he wanted to use it to find the exact location where Laura had drowned. Ron also claimed that Peter told him Laura was making gurgling noises when he first brought her to shore, and that he stopped doing CPR to go and get his boat because he noticed it was starting to float away.
Oh boy.
Ron's wife, Mary, testified that they were at the campground when Laura died. They saw Peter standing on a pontoon boat in his underwear. When they asked him about his pants, Peter claimed he took them off before diving in the water to save Laura, which is interesting because during that reenactment, Peter told the police his shoes came off in the water while he was rescuing her. So, did he take his pants off and then put his shoes back on to dive in? Because if he took his pants off, it makes no sense that his shoes wouldn't have just been in the boat. Mary also testified that Laura was afraid of the water and she always wore a life jacket, noting it was strange that she wasn't wearing one when she went overboard. Peter said Laura was wearing the life jacket when they first got on the boat, but she took it off because it was so hot. He then added that right before he heard the splash, Laura commented that her back was sore, so he believed she stood up to stretch, and that's when she fell back. Which fits in nicely with the theory that the defense kept pushing, which was that Laura's death was just an accident. And honestly, that very well could be true. And since Peter was the only witness, we'll never know. But the prosecution was convinced that Peter pushed Laura in the water on purpose so he could cash in on her life insurance.
Mm.
Now, Laura's family said she was always very frugal with money, but once Peter moved to Canada in 2002, Laura suddenly bought a 1999 Jaguar, a 2002 BMW, both of which were registered in Peter's name. He also ended up owning a GMC Jimmy, a Ford Explorer, a Yamaha boat, and the 2007 motorhome that they took camping. Peter worked as a school bus driver and a long haul trucker very briefly. He never stayed at a job very long, so Laura was the main breadwinner for the family. And as a teacher, I can't imagine she was getting paid a lot because Lord knows teachers don't get paid nearly what they're worth. But Laura had multiple life insurance policies worth more than $600,000, including an accidental death insurance policy worth $200,000 that was purchased just 2 months before Laura's death. The documentary claimed that Peter purchased that policy, but it was said in court that Laura and Peter purchased the policy together, so I'm not 100%. Wendy Sinsky, the principal at Laura's school, testified that Peter had asked for her to help arrange Laura's funeral about a week after Laura's death. Peter told Wendy he wanted to buy a fountain to memorialize Laura, and he asked her to go with him to Edmonton to pick one out. While in Edmonton, Peter stopped at the office of the Letts family lawyer. Peter, and this is all in front of Wendy, Peter said Laura didn't have a will, but somehow just days after Laura's death, a will miraculously appeared. Peter accused the lawyer and Laura's parents of faking a will to keep him from inheriting anything. Peter asked Wendy if she had any thoughts on everything and if he should fight this in court. And she asked him why he was going to bother because there's no money for him to inherit. Peter said it was a matter of righteousness and justice. So did Peter push Laura in the lake to get his hands on her life insurance? Did she accidentally go overboard during a heated argument? Or did she just genuinely fall in? The defense pointed out if it was murder, why commit the crime so close to shore? Why not do it in the middle of the lake if you're going to do it? Well, to that I say, he said they were pulling off to a smaller spot because she wanted shade. Were, was he really doing that to get away from potential witnesses? Or maybe it was an accident and she fell in during an argument, and in his anger, he just let her drown. The defense also claimed if it was murder, why would Peter retrieve the body? And I know I'm not an expert, but to me, no body makes it even more suspicious than it already is. But in the end, the case is just circumstantial. So Peter and his lawyer were convinced they were finally going to get that acquittal. The jury deliberated for 4 days, and on September 16th, 2017, Peter was found guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Peter said the conviction was the biggest miscarriage of justice in the world. The world? He was convinced that the police and the justice system wanted him dead because he'd been threatening to expose them. At one point, he claimed he was transferred from a facility in Vancouver to Kamloops. He was the only prisoner alone in a prison van. He had no handcuffs or leg cuffs at all. He claims the driver stopped at a gas station and just purposely left the door open. And Peter said the whole thing was obvious that they wanted him to run so they could shoot him. Terry Jacklin, the lead of the RCMP Major Crimes, said this absolutely never happened. And also, even if he did start running, they aren't allowed to like shoot him dead. They can only shoot him dead if they think he's going to harm them or somebody else.
Right.
So at this point, again, we're in another situation of do we believe Peter or do we believe police officers? We don't know. Peter's lawyer immediately launched an appeal, and finally, after 3 years, his case was heard in BC's Court of Appeals. Peter's new lawyer noted 6 grounds for appeal, including the fact that the trial judge was wrong to not call a mistrial after Carl, the informant, gave information he wasn't supposed to the jury. In September 2020, the Court of Appeals found in favor of Peter based on the Jordan decision from 2016, which stated any person charged with an offense has the right to be tried within a reasonable amount of time. The amount of time in question varies per province, but in BC specifically, the time between your arrest and your trial cannot be longer than 30 months. When Peter finally went to trial, it had been nearly 73 months. Due to this decision, the charges for him counseling to commit murder were dropped. Peter's conviction was officially overturned. The judge outright told the prosecutors they should think long and hard about not pushing this a third time, which sounds like the judge was beyond tired of
Yeah.
this entire case and were ready to move on. But they didn't listen, and the Crown immediately filed an appeal with the Supreme Court of Canada to try and get the BC Court of Appeals decision reversed. But 6 months later, the Supreme Court upheld the Court of Appeals decision, and Peter Beckett was finally a free man. Once Peter got the news, he immediately reached out to his children back home to reconnect with them. At the time, only 2 of the 4 were willing to speak to him. Peter blamed the Canadian justice system for isolating him from his children. And to that I say, Peter, bud, you flew over 12,000 kilometers away from your children, leaving them behind. I understand you were in love with Laura, but you chose her over your own children. You made that choice, No one else. But just like the time that Peter claimed he was being forced to stay in prison, even though he was the one who refused bail, or the time he claimed the justice system was forcing him to represent himself in court, even though he was the one that fired his lawyers, it just seems like Peter refuses to take accountability for his own actions. And I don't know if this is connected to that or not, but during his time in prison, Peter changed his mind about what he thinks happened to Laura. At first, he said Laura's death was an accident, but then he changed his tune and said he thinks Laura's death was really a suicide. Did he say that to absolve himself from the fact that he wasn't able to save her? I don't know. But what would make him suggest a suicide? Well, Peter said Laura felt tortured by her strained relationship with her family and the extreme judgment that Peter believed Laura got from her family's church. When Peter and Laura split up briefly in 2007, her parents allegedly told her, "You've got to choose. It's us or it's him." Laura's friend Wendy said the estrangement with her parents was very difficult on Laura. So I guess she chose him over the family. So apparently, this estrangement was so difficult that in November 2007, Laura wrote in her journal that she'd been having some bad thoughts and she once considered crossing the line on a highway when two trucks were oncoming. That, of course, doesn't mean she was still having negative thoughts in the summer of 2010. So was it just the estrangement from her family that was wreaking havoc on Laura's mental health, or were there other issues going on? According to Laura's psychologist, Michelle, Laura was feeling a lot of anxiety and panic over her relationship with Peter, and she was starting to question her feelings for him. During their last session in June 2010, Laura had mentioned wanting to reconnect with her family. Is it possible Laura told Peter she was choosing her family over him and he didn't take it well? Did he say we should go on one last trip together? And it was literally the last trip.
Yeah.
According to Michelle, Laura mentioned some potential emotional, verbal, and physical abuse that had occurred during her relationship with Peter. And Laura isn't the only one. When RCMP first started investigating Peter in 2011, they reached out to Peter's ex-wife, who said Peter had been violent throughout their marriage and she endured many injuries on a regular basis. Peter's childhood friend, Del White, said, quote, "I'm not sure if Pete physically abused his wife and children, but his first wife would often have an accident at home. They must have had a revolving door because she seemed to run into it quite often. I think something must have been going on, and I think I should have said something more." In journal entries from 2007, Laura wrote that Peter constantly berated her and that he had been physical with her for the past couple of years. She mentioned times when he karate chopped her head, slapped her ears, and karate chopped her nose. Oh, and then there was a time he pushed her into a wall or some furniture. In September 2007, Laura went to the RCMP in Westlock to make a complaint of violence against Peter. A brief investigation was done, but no charges were ever made. When Peter was asked about the physical violence that allegedly occurred, he said, and I quote, "Physical violence has to be defined. A boot in the ass? Is violence a slap on the shoulder? Or is violence a punch that causes trauma? Because I've never inflicted trauma that's needed any medical attention on any woman in my life." So he didn't deny the abuse. He just denied ever hurting someone so much that they needed a doctor, which is his opinion. They very well could have needed medical attention, but to him, they didn't. They were fine. After Peter's release, he went to Central America. Isn't that interesting that he didn't go home to see the kids he was trying to reunite with? He settled in Honduras in the summer of 2023. He bought a catamaran and became a tour boat operator while collecting $38,000 a year from Laura's pension. Her life insurance was said to be worth roughly $644,000, but there is no word as to how much Peter received. Peter Beckett died in Guatemala in February 2025 at the age of 68. Reporting for True Crime and Cocktails, I'm Christy Oxborrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I got so much to say. So
Mm.
many thoughts, so many feelings. Let's take a quick break, hit the can, grab a drink. We'll be back with our thoughts on the, it's right here. Where is it? That's the jewel thief. Here we go. Laura Letts-Beckett episode
Mhm.
of True Crime and Cocktails. Three, one, two, three. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing the Laura Letts-Beckett case. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The reveal that he's 6'8" and almost 400 pounds did shock me. Mostly just because that's just such a rare size for a human.
You don't hear 6'8" a lot.
No.
Yeah. It
But
just,
I'm going to start back at the beginning. You
yeah.
said waterfalls. I wrote down TLC. Don't go chasing them, their waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that we're used to. Uh,
Beautiful.
you talked about how her parents didn't believe in marriage after divorce, and so they wouldn't let her date divorced men. This is wild. She's also a full adult at this point. But then
Yeah.
I just wrote down, I hope they're happy they killed her. Because who knows? There
Yeah.
were that doctor that she was wanting to date who had been divorced, like these other men that she was entertaining,
Hmm.
hopefully they wouldn't have murdered her,
One could only hope.
right? And I understand the only person we can blame for her murder is her killer. I understand that. I'm not trying to be glib, but I just feel like this is such a controlling, bizarre
Yeah.
thing to be holding on to.
Well, because then they're saying what she needs, they're forcing her to get divorced, and then what? She can never remarry?
Well, that's the other thing. I'm like, so wait, it's okay for her to divorce, but they don't want her marrying someone who's been divorced. And yeah, I think for me, it's just like, if that's supposed to be indicative of the quality of this man,
Mm,
guess what? Didn't work out, you know?
great point.
Um, I wrote down about how 2000 after the divorce, he took a trip to Canada to see her. 2002, he moved to Canada, uh, married her in 2003. And then I just wrote down kids.
Right?
Now, listen, I saw I was watching a clip earlier on TikTok, and it isn't really relevant to this, but it is in the sense that they were talking about the double standards and about how we're all
Mhm.
programmed because of patriarchy. They were using this argument, by the way, for bad. I'm going to use it for good. Um, but one of those things where it's like, if a man says, "Oh, I'm divorced. I see my kids on the weekend and one night a week," you go, "Oh, that's normal." But if a woman was to say that, people would be like, "What is she? She a drug addict? Like, what do you mean?"
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like it's like there's this idea of women still, even now, it's like there's the pressure to be the primary caregiver and all of the above. I'm connecting that by saying if the genders were reversed and he was a woman and he
Hmm.
had moved across the world from his four children,
Yeah,
sorry, in that case it would be a she, we would be like, I'm using the general, societal we would be like,
sure.
what? And I just like I understand that situations happen and these things happen and people make choices, but I will just speak for myself. I've never been able to wrap my head around the concept of anyone moving that far away from their kids.
Oh, yeah. I don't get it.
I I don't care if you're the primary caregiver. I don't care if you're the part-time caregiver. It's always been something I could never wrap my head around. When the
Yeah.
kids are young, you know what I mean? Like I understand that people things happen and jobs and what have you, but I don't know. To me, and this isn't me saying, well, that should have been a red flag to her, because again, that doesn't mean that that meant that he was going to potentially murder her. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I don't know. It's just always bumped me. And it's bumped me. My point being is for me, it doesn't matter if it's the primary caregiver or not. The
Sure.
idea that you have children in somewhere and
Hmm.
you're choosing to live not a city away or a state away. You're choosing to live continents, divides,
Yeah.
24-hour flights away. That's far. I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting to me that they didn't move, that she didn't move to Australia.
I want to know so badly if that ever came up in conversation. And then it's like, because I just keep thinking, like, if it had been like, if he had asked, like, would you move there? I mean, I don't know how easily she would be able to do teaching there, but like, certainly that was a better option to consider than him moving because he had like a regular job at the time and he left everything.
Well, and especially considering there was tension between her and her parents, like there's even more of a motive for her to potentially want to move away. It feels to me like maybe, I don't know, maybe she didn't want to leave her parents or something. Who knows? It feels like they were close if they were kind of having this much influence on her life choices.
Right.
But it's also interesting because part of the reason that, or part of the necessity for her to maintain her relationship with him was reliant on them keeping those kids and the ex-wife secret. So it's also like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just, I mean, it's a fascinating situation because again, I don't know, to me, it doesn't matter if it's one kid or four kid, it's just that's just my own personal, and I'm not saying that that makes someone a bad person. I'm just saying it's always bumped me. I've always just
Yes.
personally not been able to wrap my head around that concept.
I just wonder, like, do you think that it's possible that she was like, well, I can't move there because if I do, you know, somehow my parents could find out about the kids.
Maybe.
It's the fact that he was willing to be like, we'll never mention the children at all. We let it go.
Well, why, yeah, why was he so comfortable being in a relationship where he would have to pretend his children didn't exist? Like that's not great.
Yeah, like there's not a world in which that I would just be like, well, we've had a good run. Mama's gonna head out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, like, yeah, like a different city, I can understand it. Even like maybe a different state or province or something, but like another country and that far, it just seems wild that he was so easy to go, like, yeah, I'm good. And then
Yeah.
when he was finally free and could go back to see them, he didn't. Like, unless it's possible he went and visited and then said, forget this and went to Central America. But,
I mean, it speaks to his priorities.
mm, hmm
You know, he was quite keen to move to Canada and not work and live off of her money and drive nice cars instead of
that
being
is
an
true.
active parent. I mean, the fact that when he went to jail or I can't remember whether was it when he went into jail or came out of jail, he was like, I'm going to contact my kids and try and reconnect. Two of them didn't want to talk to him. Yeah, I not a surprise to me.
Yeah, it at that point had been over 20 years.
Wild. My next note is simply, why is he so buoyant?
The larger of a person you are, like the more like fat storage in your body, the more you're gonna float. Like
Is that true? I didn't know
I
that.
shouldn't. Yeah, it is true. And I know that because I mean I had seen it because I was looking up buoyancy, but also I don't want to say this. I have personal experience. My my kids enjoy swimming, so sometimes we'll take them to public swimming. And once this rump gets in the deep, it my body turns and my butt like floats to the surface. It's a horror show. Like it just in that moment, like I have to physically try to keep my butt like down because if I'm just sitting there, my body wants to like brrr, and like breach the surface.
Okay.
Maybe peach the surface because it's my ass. I'm so sorry. I'll stop.
Oh, breach that peach. Um, okay.
Oh, they're gonna want that merch.
Yeah. I kind of want that merch. Okay, that answers my question then. I
Hmm.
didn't realize that legitimately.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was a correlation. Um, well then, my question would be, which you also mentioned later, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
bounce around for a second here, but why not throw her the life jacket? Like to me,
Yep.
why and if you get in the water
Hmm.
and the person is slipping away, I mean, what a nightmare.
Yep.
But let's just let me put myself in that position for a second. Somebody falls in the water. I look in. Oh my God, this person's fallen in. I'm going to. I mean, my instinct is throw them a life jacket first of all. But if
Yeah.
they are too, because even if they're going down, I don't know what the depth perception is, right? Like I think my personal
Oh,
first
sure.
instinct would be throw it and see and reassess.
Of course.
My next inst if my next instinct was to jump in to try and help them, and I'm not able to dive down, I don't know that my next choice is I'm going to swim to shore, get a rock,
Hmm.
swim back. Because I'll also speak for myself when I say, I mean, I have a pool. I've been in varying degrees of shape of as a swimmer. Um,
Sure.
I don't think I would trust myself to be swimming with a giant rock, like in terms of my own
Yeah.
ability to swim.
Sure.
Because then where's the rock in one of your hands? So then you're only swimming with one arm?
Yeah, according to like the video that they showed, which of course was like a reenactment, it was under one arm and then he was just swimming with the other arm, which felt is like at what speed is that happening? How easy is this happening? I don't know. I also, yeah, I agree. I don't think my instinct would ever be I've got to be heavier. Like
No.
I need more weight. And then I'm just like, I just don't understand
I could see
everything that happened.
trying to shove the fishing rod beneath the like to try and have the person grab onto it and then try and
Oh,
pull them
sure.
up. That could be an instinct I feel like I would have if they were sitting right there. There was the umbrella. I could see myself same thing,
Sure.
not extended, not open, but
Of
a
course.
closed umbrella. If
Yep.
it was, I don't know how long it was. If it was one of the longer ones,
Yeah,
because
it
it
was
seems
four
like
and
it
a
was
half
like
feet.
right, it's like a beach 4.5 feet. I mean, these are going to be the things that I go to, right?
Yep.
If I'm like, I don't trust myself to get in the water. Actually, let me take a step back. My initial instinct is never going to be to jump in the water, personally. It's
Sure.
going to be what can I throw to this person to try and pull them back in, try and help them float.
Because once you
If,
get in the water, who knows how you're getting back in the boat? Then you're useless if you're both drowning.
right.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not suggesting that people would make a wrong choice by doing that. I'm just saying, like, in the moment of panic, it seems odd to me that your first choice is rather than throw the person something
Mm.
to try and get in the water and then test it and not work and then swim to shore, get a rock. Like that would take so long.
So long. Well, I mean, they believe she, I don't know if it means went in the water or not, but they figured time of death was like maybe 5:15. The police weren't called till 8. So that was a chunk of time because he also had to wait for someone to, like a boater to pass by. He could flag down and be like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" So it was a long time.
That's a long time. I don't know, man. I just listen, I mean, he was found guilty, right? So I know that then he was exonerated, but that was also based on technicalities.
Right.
I
Right.
think for me, I think it's one of two things. I think he could have shoved her.
Yep.
And given that he is far bigger than her, I think he could probably have shoved her pretty far. Like she could have flown through the air type thing.
Sure.
So the distance that she could have been from the boat could have been why there was no claw marks for her trying to get back up.
Right.
Because, yeah, especially if someone doesn't see it coming and you have that much size on them,
Yeah,
It would be the equivalent of like one of us shoving a child, like just in terms of the size differential, right? So it's like
right.
we would obviously never, but if you did, like that kid, if there's that much of a difference, that person would go flying. So I could see it being that that could be a reason why there was no sort of signs of her trying to get back in the boat. Because again, this is not a reliable narrator. One of my favorite labels on this show. He's not a
Right.
reliable narrator. Why are we trusting how far she was or wasn't from the boat? There's no other witnesses.
100%.
And then the other thing I'll say is if there is a world where she accidentally fell in, I
Right.
agree with what you said, where I could see that in that moment he let her drown
Oh, yeah.
because the life insurance policy,
Sure.
because the history of violence, because her cousin hearing him say, "You're going to die on a lake."
Right.
There's just so much motive. There's so much motive and opportunity. If it was an accident, which I tend to believe it wasn't, yeah, it's still a crime. And again, like, yeah, the all of the none of it adds up. The fact that his story changed too,
Mm,
what he originally said and then what he said a year later, I feel like that's, let's put it this way, it's just rare for that to happen for an innocent person.
yeah.
It's not impossible, but they're like trauma and all those things. But you know what I'm saying? It's like when you add in all these other factors, it's like, come on.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I think he killed her. I think he did push her in, and I don't think he did anything to save her.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are moments where I'm like, she could have fallen in, but again, I don't buy the story of going and getting the rock and then getting her and then being misremembering either grabbing her with your hands or grabbing her with your feet.
The idea that he's like, I grabbed her neck with the insides of my feet is wild.
Yeah.
I just don't, I just don't buy it. Because that's the thing. You're right. If you're diving underwater to try and help
Hmm.
somebody, you need to have impact. So unless he jumped off the side of the boat, pencil style, feet first,
Right.
then propelling him down,
Hmm.
I guess I also just don't think that that's how human instinct is. I don't think our human instinct is to use our feet to grab someone by the neck.
Well, and that also, as far as I can tell, the only time he actually jumped in was the first time when he saw her, and then he kept trying to go down and it wasn't working. So then he went to the shore, got the rock, came back and was like he didn't touch the boat at that point. So I'm just like, again, I just say this as a buoyant bottom. How, and I know bottom means something else in certain worlds, but as someone with a buoyant backside, is that better?
Hmm.
As a buoyant backside, I just feel like there's not a chance if I'm diving down that my feet are going to allow me to be under my body. Like my feet are gonna keep trying to go with my fucking rump to the surface.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand how the feet could have been that far down. I don't know how
Unless
he was doing that.
unless he was like he's got the giant rock and then he just like allowed himself to slowly sink.
I mean, it's possible. Is like a 10-pound rock enough for to drop like allow him to sink?
Well, good news. I've got a deep pool and it's going to be summer sometime.
The idea of you like getting a large dummy or just getting several garbage bags tied together and like just filling them with weights and stuff to get like the right height and weight and dive like jumping it in your pool for science. Uh, Amazing. Like that's the dream is you doing your own science experiments.
That is the dream,
I'm
quite
telling you
frankly.
though, watch out for that backside.
Well, listen, I wasn't going to get into it, but I historically I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
positive for you though.
well, it was worse when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I sunk like a rock. Like,
Huh.
yeah. As I've gotten older, I've been able to float a little bit, but like not like other people.
Oh, I again, it's just the trying to like be underwater and just the automatic like butt trying to float to the surface. It's really something.
I'm so sorry.
In just the like I need to like sit. So I try and sit in a spot and I just like I need it just deep enough that I can like tread water casually in not a life-saving way, but just in a enough of a keep my backside down below kind of a way.
Yeah.
This
Hmm.
might be my most butt references in an episode yet.
How wonderful.
We always keep growing.
When you were talking about how if he was mad at her when they were on an RV trip, he would force her to walk even at
Mm.
night. I just wrote down Gabby Petito vibes.
Oh, sure.
Same, not, no, I don't know whether he had done that to her specifically, but it definitely felt like I know he left her at one point for sure. So I don't know. There's just something about like there's such a casual cruelty to that that again, if I'm psychologist hat wanting to build a profile about this guy, like, do I believe he's capable of murder? I do. If you're making your wife get out and walk in the middle of the night to try and punish her for something, and you're also violent and physically violent and all of these things, yes. I mean, all of the signs tragically are there. Like this is textbook.
Oh, yeah.
If they had had a beautiful, loving relationship, no life insurance policy, you know, never fought, etc., I'd still be suspect because we know that one of the number one killers or, one of the
Mm,
highest percentage of killers of women is their partners.
of course.
Um, but then I feel like I might have a bit of an easier time believing the accident. But there's just way too this guy's just there's way too much.
For me, I mean there's a lot of things, but I think for me the biggest thing that irks me is when he was confronted about being physically violent with people and he was like, "Well, how would you define that?" And it's like
Yeah.
that's not the answer. It
Yes,
was
yes or no.
it was like a boot in the ass, a slap on the arm, and it's like so you're admitting you are physically violent towards people.
Right.
But in your mind, because you think they don't need a doctor, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So it just feels, I just don't like when you ask someone if they've ever been physically violent and their response is, define that for me. Like that just feels like you're screaming the answer.
It's a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
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 Um, okay. His unusual courtroom behavior, performing the traditional Maori dance as a person who is not Maori because he
Yeah.
wanted more press. There are so many things that are wrong with this. Um,
Yeah.
his pants randomly falling down did remind me of the scene of in A League of Their Own where they were talking about how they needed to get press, and then Madonna's character is like, "What if in a really, tense moment in the game, my uniform falls open and my bosoms come out?" And then Rosie O'Donnell's like, "You think there's men who haven't seen your bosoms?" Anyway, doesn't matter. But it just felt like the same vibe of like, well, this will be something. I'll let my pants fall down. Then they'll come. But I guess I also just feel like the narcissism is so real with this guy. Like the fact that he's so concerned about getting press through his lens, he's arguing like to prove that he's innocent or there's a miscarriage of justice. But I
Mm.
don't know that a lot of people who've been wrongfully accused of things want to have their pants fall down in a courtroom as a way of getting more attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't I mean, I don't I don't think I've ever once in my life thought if I want more attention, I should drop my pants.
I mean, I have, but I was a teenager at the time and I thought mooning was hilarious.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing.
But
I don't
not,
think he was intentionally trying to moon. He just really
no.
wanted to. Yeah, I don't know. I also should have looked up what other court cases might have been going on at the time because I'm like, how is this case not making big headlines anyway?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hmm.
Okay, a few more things. One, okay, Carl, thank you again for naming him Carl. Carl wasn't supposed to testify about anything he learned after the police made him go undercover.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this happen? Why would the police ask him to do that if they knew that that wasn't gonna fly in court? Why do they do why do they do that shit?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially because he came in on his own. Like he came to them.
Right.
He was like, he sent the letter and then they reached out. He came in for like an interview and he was doing all of that without this whole thing. So it's like, why didn't he keep like why did you feel you had to like agree to pay him?
Yeah,
Was he then not going to give you any more? Was he not going to help you? I don't know. It just seems weird to be like, but he was already helping.
right,
And he was helping supposedly because he didn't like people who hurt women.
right.
He just felt very Carl to me. I don't have a good reason for it.
There's no need to have to justify it. Um, okay, then it comes out the detail about Peter stopping CPR to go after the boat floating away.
Mm,
This man is guilty. Come on. Um, the cars that were bought in his name, the expensive cars, I might add, him briefly working, but she was the breadwinner as a teacher. You raised such a great point that it's like on a teacher's salary. That's crazy. I also just want to say this. They took out an accidental death policy 2 months prior to her death. And I wrote this down, and I want this to be, if nothing else, something that, young people, especially women, I
mhm,
want you to hear me. The type of man that's thinking about your life insurance policies
mm,
is not it. And I'm going to tell you why. I want to remind people that straight men have to be reminded to buy new underwear when their underwear gets holes in it. They have to be reminded that the socks that are full of holes are probably not useful to them anymore. And I know that I'm being glib and I'm speaking in general terms, but my point just is that I think if someone tells you, and I know sometimes these life insurance policies can get taken out without your knowledge. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if your partner comes to you and says, I think we should take out an accidental death policy on you. I think we need more life insurance policies on you. Run away. Run away.
mhm.
That's where his focus is.
Yeah.
I know a lot of men who don't know anybody's birthday in their own families. They rely on their wives for that. That's kind of the norm. Again, I'm speaking generally, and I know that's not the truth, but that's what we've had so many sitcoms about over the years.
Yeah.
I don't think that those men, who are great men, by the way, are the ones going, you know what we need to tackle? Your life insurance dollars. It just is not, it's a red flag.
You know who's not talking about life insurance policies? The King of Queens,
Thank you very much. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. And he
right?
loved the hell out of her. You know what I'm
He
saying?
loved her
I'm
so
not
much,
saying
but for the love of God, he couldn't tell you where those scissors were, even though they've been in the same place that they have been the entire time they've lived in that house.
this is what I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
saying, listen, you could argue that it's a charming trait of men that they need to have women in their lives to help them in these ways. I'm not saying that
You
it
could
makes,
argue
if,
that.
in fact, if anything, I'm saying that's probably a pretty decent guy. A guy doesn't, guys wearing a pair of underwear that are, only being held together by a lick and a dream. That guy's probably, don't write him off. That guy says, we need to take out $1 million life insurance policy on you. Nope. Nope. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I think life
Yeah.
insurance for yourself is the only time. If it's like I should
Sure.
get some life insurance for myself, whatever, in case of my loved ones. And here's the other thing I'm going to say: hide it. Don't tell your partner. Don't tell your partner you've got some $2 million life insurance policy on yourself.
Mm.
I think we've learned over the course of even recent episodes of this show what a motive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so tough, but I mean, life insurance, great idea. I just feel there's nothing sketchier that like I want to know whose idea was it to be like we should get that accidental death. Like
Yeah.
for what? What do you plan on doing? You're not evil Knievel. You know what I mean? Like what do you need? What are you possibly doing that might be harmful?
We've just heard the story so many times that it's
A
like
lot.
a
A
man
lot.
convinces his partner to take out this life insurance policy and then she turns up dead. We've just heard it so many times. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's going to happen every single time. What I'm saying is I'm not going to roll the dice.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's yeah, I don't love it.
Because also here's the other thing I would encourage people, okay?
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
I've I've I'm going to take a step back for a second. In terms of dating, I have heard theories, and this is not about being deceitful or game playing, but I have heard through different therapeutic resources a suggestion that a good way to kind of gauge a guy, I'm speaking heteronormatively, but you could apply this to whatever. A good way to gauge is to cancel on him before you meet up for the first time, or even after you've met up for the first time. Cancel on him early on because his reaction is going to tell you a lot.
Interesting.
Quite often, the guy will say, no problem. But there will be times that the guy will get mad at you. He'll get shitty. He'll, stop talking to you, all of these things. And there you've learned everything you need to know. And again, that's not being manipulative. That's more just trying to protect yourself. I think if your partner asks you to take out a life insurance policy, I think say no or put it off and see how hard they push it. Because if they keep pushing it, I think you should be pushing yourself right out the door.
It's terrifying to think about.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised that there's a thing of like you should do this to gauge the reaction. It's like um Will Ferrell once said, and I'm saying this as though he said it to me personally, he did not. Um he once said like the best way to gauge like to see what someone's really like is have them use slow Wi-Fi.
That's amazing.
He's like, you're gonna learn everything you need to know. And I'm like, ooh, they'll learn I have a temper and get frustrated quick if it's not going like to according to my plan. So it's like, yeah, I get it, Will Ferrell. I see you.
Yeah. Okay. Apparently this appeal that ended up working, that the max you can be waiting for trial after a crime is 30 months. He was 73. What about the fact that he was the one delaying it half the
He
time?
delayed it for a long time at the beginning.
Now,
Yeah.
I wonder, did he know about this law? Was this
That
something that,
wasn't a thing until after he was already in prison for a
how
while.
lucky for him?
Mm.
Final thought: the history with his first wife, having, quote, accidents at home.
Mm.
The fact that Laura wrote in her journal he was physically violent. The fact that there was a brief investigation because she did go to the police about it, but ultimately no charges were filed, is just, to me, the most tragic, common thread we
Mm.
hear so much in this space. The fact that it's just so common that there are these women crying out saying, This person is abusing me. It's never taken seriously. It's never like it's never charged, or if it is, it's never prosecuted. And it's just it's so tragic to me that it's this common thread that is so prevalent in the true crime world. Um, and the other thing I wanted to mention, him flipping saying that her death was a suicide is the most offensive to
Oh,
our sense of like to our intelligence I've ever heard.
mm,
I also just want to say this. They talked about like in her journal, she had talked about considering driving into traffic. So it's like, oh, she was having dark thoughts.
sure.
Again, I'm going back to my own therapy here. Um, but I think it's important. This really struck me. I had a therapist tell me this once that it was like excuse me, suicidal thoughts do not mean you're necessarily suicidal. Like you can alleviate yourself of the burden that it's like, oh, if I'm having this thought, that means I'm suicidal. That means whatever.
Sure.
Having a thought does not make something in stone, right?
Sure.
Now, if you are, creating a plan,
Of
putting
course.
steps into place, that kind of thing, then we're talking about being suicidal. But I just always thought that that was like an interesting and like freeing way of thinking about it. That if you have a dark thought, if you have something that's like really heavy or really dark or really whatever, like to not judge yourself by it, to not
Sure.
think poorly of yourself or whatever. And I just, again, my heart breaks for this because this woman was
Mm,
writing about this in her journal. And by the way, like, I think most people have had dark thoughts at some point in their lives. And I think the idea that this could be somehow weaponized against her, that because she talked about feeling a certain way one day and that she had had this dark thought, paints her with this brush. Oh, well, she was suicidal and clearly whatever. I just think that that's wrong, and I think that it's offensive because it's again it's policing her private thought that she wrote about in her private diary and trying to suggest that it affixes some larger meaning to it. When again, sometimes we all just have really dark thoughts, and that's okay. You know,
yeah.
again, creating a plan and trying to put it into place and all of those other things is when we cross over into a different territory. But um, yeah, I just felt like I wanted to advocate for her in this moment because I just
Of
feel like I
course.
hate the idea of that kind of thing being used as like, well, this is proof because it's like, man, oh man, if people knew what had happened in my head sometimes in my darkest moments, you know what I mean? Like it's like I just don't like that it's like trying to put something on somebody that shouldn't be so stigmatized and
Of
you know
course.
anyway.
Yes.
That's where we leave it. And then, yeah, him living the rest of his life because he's dead now off of her pension money makes me want to scream into the abyss. That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so frustrating.
Yeah. It's there's just so many things. And again, like I don't think he ever outright said the words like, I did not hire someone to kill people.
Right.
And then he admitted, well, that I did make that map.
Right. But I don't remember why.
It makes no sense to make that map for really any other reason,
No.
especially to give it to someone who's about to get out. It's like, what was he supposed to do with that?
Yeah. Anyway, listen, well done. This one has unraveled me. It's not only made me make jokes about the differences between men and women, but then it's also made me feel like I have to have a mental health advocacy moment.
Of
What a
course.
wild ride and full to everything that you could ever expect to get from an episode of our show, all in one. Fantastic work as always. What a ride.
We really went all over the place.
I loved it.
And then for someone who's only seen a handful of episodes of King of Queens, I was able to pull out an exact plot point
That
that
beautifully illustrated what I'm talking about. I don't think the King of Queens is going to his wife going like, "When are we taking out that accidental life insurance policy on you?" It's just
oh,
not.
if there is an episode of that, I would be devastated, but also find it hilarious. I have also in the last 5 minutes gone, I've never sat and watched it. Should I watch it? I think it went on for like 8 years.
It did.
I don't know that I have 8 years worth of time for King of Queens, But I'm like, like, put it on.
Give it a go.
See how you feel.
See what you think.
I might. I love Kevin James.
On that note, we thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some bonus content, go over to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And of course, the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. And remember, I'm coming to the UK. Who knows? Maybe the shows will all be sold out by now. But if they're not, go to lauranash.band to get tickets to see me in March. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, it's the fucking hoot, baby.
It's the holiday
Yes.
hootenanny.
Yeah. Cannot wait.
Cannot
So
wait.
jazzed.
Get ready. It's a romp. There's actually cosplay. There's of course the reveal of the title. So many fun things. And we are both, I know, very excited to record that and put it out. Chris, did you want to say goodnight to the people?
Good night, Kevin James.
Yeah. Good night to him, the King of Queens.